Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Ramsey!
Marshall, let me get it out of the way for those watching on video. And once I say it, you won't be able to unsee it. But yes, I do have a curl rising in my hair. We spent a solid 30 seconds talking about it, watching me brush it, trying to get rid of it. It's not going away. This is how God made me. And yeah, good luck with that while you try to focus on the rest of the episode. But we have a great one. This is a good one.
Yeah, when I saw it, I thought of that old joke of never let your mom comb your hair when she's mad at your dad. Or it'll turn out just like this. Yeah.
There is some truth to that. I'm not going to lie.
There you go. So I've posted the Coach Spotometer, the Coaching Bright Spotometer.
Coaching Bright Spotometer, yeah.
Yes, I never can say it. I invented it. Still can't say it. Yeah,
Right.
There's something wrong with that. On one axis we have the yell and tell. On the opposite end of the continuum, we have the ask and involve.
Right.
And those our regular viewers, both of them,
Nice.
know that we lean towards the ask and involve.
That's right.
Can we get people to lean in? Our coaching systems, all of that, are all about, can I ask questions? Can I get them involved? Can I get people to find their own solutions and become self-coachable and develop critical thinking skills? So yeah, we focus on this immensely. We have never done a session on yelling and telling.
Right.
So yeah, our curriculum is obviously in deficit. So we apologize right away that and so our thinking there was that people who go to the yell and tell often really didn't need a workshop on it.
Yeah. That muscle's pretty well exercised.
Yeah, they got muscle memory. They can do it in their sleep. They can wake up from a dead sleep. And just
Yep.
There's so many different words for it. I can put a boot in their butt. Yep. I've heard that one. We have that religious get together where we have a come to Jesus meeting.
Yep.
I don't
Hit
know.
him between the eyes.
Hit him between the eyes. Yeah. Why is Jesus going to this meeting? Yeah. Did he zoom in? How does this work? So we wanted to have a conversation of when is it, it's never appropriate to yell. But
Right.
there are times where you do need to be direct, where you do need to tell.
Yeah.
And you tell the listeners how we got onto this topic.
Yeah. So let me say one thing about the come to Jesus comment, because it flows right into this. But the idea of the come to Jesus meeting is that's a frontier topic from the Great Awakening, the Second Great Awakening. They would have these camp meetings, and they would bring people in. Some of these folks had never had a pastor regularly along the frontier. There was no church or parish, and so these were big events, and like this was your chance to get right with Jesus. And so it was a come to Jesus meeting. Now, in some, especially Protestant traditions, that's evolved to where, at the Baptist church I go to, we have an altar call at every service because we want to give people that regular event. Sometimes it's not a regular event, right? And so that's sort of what we're talking about here, is that sometimes there are regular moments that tell applies. And sometimes there are these big moments where tell kind of has to be brought into the mix of the asking and involving. So we're going to get into that. And I'm sorry, you asked a question and I have completely derailed. Maybe that was a good intro to what we were talking about. What have I left out? I'm sorry.
No, it was fascinating because as you're explaining it, I'm thinking, well, we have taken what was really a cool concept and pretty self-explanatory and turned it into something completely different.
Right.
Yeah. The come to Jesus meeting is no longer referred to as that revival tit kind of thing where we're bringing people to the Lord. Yeah. Now it's just a chance to put somebody in a room and yell at them. Well, that seemed to go astray.
But and there's the point, because I think I mentioned this to you, that I had a dealer years ago who would say, if one of my people has a problem, it's one of two problems. He either doesn't know or he doesn't care, and I can help you with both. And it was said as kind of a threat,
Mhm.
but the point there is, that it doesn't have to be a threat, right? Like, if you don't know, I want to help you with that. If you don't care, I want to help you with that.
Oh yeah.
I want you to come to Jesus. I want you to get on board with what we're doing here. So I think that to me is the connection point. But gosh, how many times, Mike, over the last month do you reckon you and I have had managers call us for a little help, saying, hey, I know this isn't the hip socket way. I know this isn't the success amplified way. I know this isn't how Mike and Mark would do it, but I had to tell somebody something. And almost like with a little guilt built in, like, oh dear, I'm not being nice. And I always tell people, this isn't about being nice. We want you to be kind, but even in the Bible, it never says be nice. So that's where we're approaching the material today, is when do you tell? When do you do that?
Oh yeah, yeah, and you've got these folks we've been working with for a very long time, and
Yes.
we focused extensively on coaching,
Right.
of creating engagement, of treating people with dignity, and then they got this opportunity where they know that the tell is that's the instinct, the little voices in their head just saying, hey, this needs to be more direct, it
Right.
needs to be on point. It's probably not going to be a discussion.
Right.
And
Right.
so, and then they struggle with it because they've got us on the other shoulder.
Yeah.
Boy, ask a great what question. You talk 20% of the time, they talk 80% of the time. Stay curious longer, right? It's like they really need to be told. We've been approached here lately by a number of managers that said, it felt like I should be doing something other than what we've been talking about.
Right.
And we've been having that conversation of, no, we never meant to replace this in your toolbox. We just wanted to give you more tools for your toolbox.
Right.
You were really good at telling people stuff. You've been trying to mitigate the yelling, and in turn, we gave you another tool, which was the coaching system.
That's right.
And so now you've got a range of tools to deploy when the situation, for whatever situation calls for.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff. So we decided, we would look at this and go, okay, but let's talk about the different times where you're interacting with a team member or a fellow manager, and what's necessary at that time. And so we came up with this grid. On the horizontal, on the left-right axis, is competency.
Yeah.
And so it goes from low to high. So competency is, do they know how to do the job?
Yeah. This is the don't know column for my dealer back in the day.
Don't know how to do to do the job. So from low to high. On the vertical, the up and down axis, we've got motivation.
Yeah.
So motivation from low to high.
Yeah.
So if
this is the don't care column.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, I'm not excited about doing this, or I'm very excited about doing this.
Right.
On opposite ends of that spectrum. So in the upper left-hand corner, so that would be where motivation is high, but competency is low. So I'm really excited about doing something. I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity there is for training and coaching. Mm-hmm. And this will probably be an evolution. So it's probably going to be a lot more training at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to follow up to check for understanding, check for learning, check for execution by coaching, by asking questions. All right, so what of everything we talked about, what's working? Everything we talked about, what are you still struggling with? And what can I do to help? And so this one is on our scale. It starts over here with the tell, the train, and then should eventually evolve over to the ask, right?
Right. And we say training. We could also talk about expectation setting at the beginning of a job, or introducing a new policy. Like there has to be a tell. There just has to be. But even if you were a pure coach, if you hired me on retainer to coach you over the phone twice a month, I have clients that do that. I'm still going to train periodically, right? There's going to be something where I'm going to say, hey, could I introduce you to a tool that has helped other people I know in similar situations? They give me permission. I asked a question, right? They give me permission. Well, now I take my coach hat off, put my trainer hat on. I start going through the model or the tool or whatever it is. And then I take that trainer hat off and put the coach hat back on. Like you said, we're going to evolve as we go through this. I've just told you something. Now, what was useful in that you heard? What resonated with you? How would you see that being important to your role right now? What would you have to do to implement it? What would get in the way of implementing it? All the different questions we might ask that are good coaching questions to involve them in putting whatever this expectation or training or so on into practice for them.
Oh, definitely. So yeah, you've got, and I've seen this play out where the person was staying in coaching mode too long, and the other person finally just exasperated, said, "I have no idea what I can do to make this better."
Yeah.
I've tried 3 different things. I've talked to people. I need some ideas.
Yeah.
And it's like, so what do you think you would do next?
Right.
They just go insane, because the person on the other side won't take off his coach hat for a minute, put on his training hat.
Right.
So yeah, definitely an opportunity there. So that next column, so you've got the upper right hand corner. So motivation is high and competency is high. So they're excited about what they're doing and they're doing it very well. They're doing it at a very high level. So the opportunity there is for empowerment and coaching, right? What additional autonomy can I give them? What empowerment can I give them? And it's interesting when you talk about coaching these folks, we get some strange responses from the managers. Yeah, they're like, no, I don't.
Don't mess with him.
Yeah, those are my horses. I just let my horses run.
Right.
Horses are running, so I don't want to slow the horses down. And if you look at what Gallup, the polling organization, they went and surveyed all these amazing organizations. One thing that they found was that the most successful organizations were the ones where the manager, the leader, spent 50% of his time, like half of his time, coaching his top performers.
Yeah.
You're like, and when you say that, I've said this to rooms full of managers over the years, they initially push back, right? They're like, no, that's just dumb. And then you could just see them stop for a minute and go, all right, so where are the greatest gains going to be had? Where is the greatest opportunity for loss if these people become disengaged or don't feel valued and appreciated? Oh, they're like, yeah, you can't lose a one of them, and those guys can grow the most in the shortest amount of time. Yeah, that's why you should spend 50% of your time with these folks. And it's such a great coaching conversation.
Right.
All right, so you had another killer month. Tell me how you did it.
Right. That's the thing that is so powerful about this is that let's say that nothing happens other than the guy gets a chance to high five with you. You feel good, they feel good. Now, I will say the managers that are really hesitant about, I don't want to mess with my horses, as you said. Sometimes that's because they assume that the only reason for this conversation could possibly be is that there's something negative or correctional to this. Once they realize that, month after month, we're going to meet with you and just check in, man, still doing great. They're going to feel appreciated, valued, and that's going to keep them for the long haul. Because you've mentioned to me, Mike, sometimes the managers are surprised at what happens to those horses. They thought everything was great.
Oh, yeah. So, if I let the horse run, then I'm not meeting with the horse. The horse doesn't feel valued and appreciated. Everybody in your market knows who the horses are. They know who the top technicians are, the top salespeople, the top managers, right? Everybody knows, and those people are getting calls. In this day and age, they're getting a lot of calls.
Right.
And so, the first time you have a serious sit down with one of your top performers is when they tendered their resignation.
Right.
And the manager, the manager always says the same thing. I had no idea anything was wrong.
Right.
Well, of course you didn't know. You hadn't spoken to him.
Right.
You hadn't been paying attention to one of your horses, one of your top performers. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that tends to be yeah. That's when that conversation just comes out of the blue, and now you're going to lose one of your highest production people
Right.
for no other reason than I didn't consistently sit down with them.
Yeah. Very fair. Very fair. So now we've got the other extreme. We talked about the will is high, the skill is low. Now let's flip it around. This is the bottom right box. The will is low. Skills are there, but the will for some reason is not there.
Yeah, this tends to be the most perplexing to the managers. This is the one where they just come to you and they're holding their heads and they're like,
Yeah.
I know he knows what to do. He's done it. Right? I've seen him do this. Right? He's had great years, great months. I know he knows what to do. Just something's changed.
Right.
He's lost his motivation. He doesn't care anymore. Sometimes they get real judgmental. He's given up. He's a quitter. He's laid down.
You lay down on me.
He laid down on us. So you hear all this terminology, and so here the opportunity is to discover and coach.
Yeah.
And so something's changed, and as a manager, I've got to figure out what's changed.
Right.
What in this person's life is different that's caused them to not execute at the high level that we know they're capable of and that they've probably done before.
Yeah. And this is one of the really classic prompts for really preparing for a crucial conversation. We've had a series about that, talked extensively about that. We'll probably link to it in the show notes here. But the idea that there must be more to the story. Let me assume good intentions. Let me assume that this guy didn't just suddenly become a jerk and just stopped working, and there's something going on. And hey, this is again kind of a come to Jesus meeting, right? Like something's going on. I care for you. I want you here on the team. I know you can work on the team, and I want to make sure you're okay. What's going on? And we spell out some ways in the crucial conversations method that you would go about doing that, making some observations. I mean, there's a whole process of what you could explain to this person to sort of be the tell to set up, okay, I'm curious what's going on. And you open this into a dialogue. That's what's powerful about this is you're telling for the sake of having a dialogue. So now we're back into, in some ways, a coaching conversation, or at least a coach approach.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. So if trust is high between you and this team member, then you can start with our number one coaching question. So, what's on your mind?
Right.
And if trust is high, they know that you care, that you want them to succeed, they're going to share.
Right.
I think one of the things that I've figured out talking with managers is one of the reasons they don't want to have this conversation is because they're absolutely terrified of what they will discover.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I've got, my mom's got cancer and I'm trying to help her through it. I'm getting ready to go through a divorce.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
I am not prepared. None of my business classes prepared me for that conversation.
Yeah.
So, but it's the exact conversation the person needs to know that you've noticed, that you value and appreciate them, and you'd like to know, because if there is something you could do, you would gladly do it to get them back on track.
Yeah, and I think that's really part of what makes this special. I know for certain behavior styles, certain personalities, this is going to be a very exhausting conversation. I promise you that there's a good chance that because of this conversation, this person stays with you for a long time. Mm-hmm. They cut you some slack in the fact that you don't know exactly the right words to say, but they so appreciate you asking. There's a very good chance that will be the outcome of, even if you kind of ham fist this thing. Now we've got a lot of help to help you not ham fist it. We definitely encourage you to check out our Crucial Conversations episodes. But this is a big deal, and even if it's uncomfortable, I think you get some credit for at least trying.
Oh yeah. Simply noticing and asking the question puts you light years ahead in your relationship.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time, there's absolutely nothing you can do
Right.
except you're there, you're listening, and you're empathetic.
Yeah.
And it's so often we've heard the story of, well, like, there really wasn't anything I could do, but I did notice that they got back to work. Their performance picked up. They were in a better frame of mind.
Right.
Things just got better.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have this conversation, know that it's probably going to go someplace unexpected, and
Right.
but until you discover what's going on, you'll never be able to help. You'll never understand fully what's causing this decrease in performance.
Right. Perfectly said. All right. So that brings us to the final box,
Yeah.
the really fun one.
Oh
No
yeah.
will, no skill.
Yeah. They don't know what to do, and they don't want to do anything. But other than that, things are great. So this is where a more direct approach, a
Yeah.
tell is definitely the strongest option to go with here. And I love what you said, right? The tell could be setting of expectations.
Right.
The tell could be what the next steps are if this continues this way.
Right.
So we've said this before. Clarity is kindness.
Yep.
And so the most kind thing you can do here is just to be clear about where we stand, what's going on, and what potential next steps are.
Right.
And
Right.
so, yeah, if we figure out if it's obviously the skills are low, so we know that there's a training component. If we see a spark of motivation, then we know that we can invest in some training here. If one of those two things doesn't happen, then now it's just a decision on the manager's part.
Yeah, and again, this is a crucial conversation if you're going to deliver that kind of clarity. But the thing that's happened here is that you have taken the steps necessary to get you to that point where you say, okay, the person is truly not coachable. This is a bad fit. Whatever would be the negative outcome, unfortunately, for this situation. But of course, the reality is in some cases the competency is low or the motivation is low because this is not where they're supposed to be. And this is really a blessing in disguise for them. They may not want to lose their position, but in fact, recently I heard from a manager who they moved somebody from a position. They had one of these hard conversations. Skill low, will low is what it seemed like, and just I'm missing something. What's going on? And it turns out that the real kicker was, this isn't a good role for you. Now that I understand your personality better, we've got a different role for you. So they didn't even fire the person. They literally moved them into a different role where they were thriving, within a couple days. So again, this doesn't have to be all bad news. This whole grid doesn't have to, once you get down to these, lower boxes where something's low or both things are low, it doesn't have to be this gloom and doom. We'll get ready. You're going to have a bad conversation. This could be good news as well, because again, now we know, they know, and we know.
Oh yeah, well, and that's the kindness part of it.
That's right.
Yeah, because the person that you're talking to knows this isn't a fit.
Right.
This isn't working. I remember a manager telling me, we're in the meeting, and he says, here's all the things as a salesperson that you need to do. And this is my expectations. Here's what a day in the life of a salesperson should be at this particular location. And the guy, salesperson looked at him and said, listen, that's great. But I really don't want to work that hard. Like the
Thank
manager,
you.
yeah, the manager said, oh, I appreciate you saying what half of my sales team is thinking. And I think we need to find a different spot for you. Help you move on to a place that fits you better.
Yeah,
Yeah, this isn't a good fit for you.
that's hilarious.
So yeah, it's just but yeah, I'm not gonna do all that. fantastic. Then yeah, you need to find a place where you can do less and they'll love you.
Now, if this had been part of the movie Office Space, they would have promoted the guy right then and there.
Oh yeah.
We think this guy's got management potential.
This guy's got authenticity. He's direct. Yeah. Yeah. We got to get him in our management advancement program immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So choosing the appropriate approach.
Yeah.
If a team member needs specific direction, right? This is one-way communications. This is step by steps. It's clarity on consequences. It's like you said, it's setting expectations. Here's some milestones, and
Right.
this also requires that we check back in. This is not. It's not a launch and forget. It's this is what we're going to do, but I'm going to check in to see how we're progressing on these things. And for both of your sakes, right? They
Right.
need to know if they're still not on track. You need to know how it's going so you can decide what you want to do next.
Well said.
The other one is the last resort. I've tried every coaching system I know. It doesn't seem to be sinking in. Now I'm going to go back to a tell. Right?
Yeah.
This is simply how it's going to be. So I've done all this coaching. It's not working. Here's my next step. And then we see this one. This one is kind of what some of the managers were telling us. It was a non-negotiable, right?
Right.
The team member was breaking a rule that it's not gray. This is a black and white rule. They're in violation of it. It didn't feel like I should have a coaching conversation. It felt like I needed to tell. And in that case, definitely an acceptable approach. Yeah. They need to know. It would be unkind to not tell them that they were violating some clear cultural standard, rule, expectation, whatever it might be.
Right.
And so first of all, you have to check yourself. Did I clearly communicate it? Did they understand it? And then ultimately, is this something that if they did all those things, I just need to remind them, and I also need to share the consequences of continuing to ignore this.
Yeah. And you have pointed out how big a deal dignity is through this whole process. And we did a series on dignity as well, talking about, the idea of, I am going to honor the fact that you're worth something. I'm going to treat you like you matter, like you count, because you do. You're made in God's image. That's just how you are. Every person's worth something. But you had this point about delivering feedback effectively while honoring dignity. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, definitely. So there was this research study where professors were giving feedback on students. They'd submit their paper, the students would mark it up, give it back to them, and they noticed that if the professor added one line to their feedback, so here's your paper back, and on it the professor wrote, I'm giving you these comments, this feedback, because I have very high standards and I know that you can reach them. For the papers that had that extra sentence, they got more of the papers returned from students. The fixes were better, the corrections were better. And so, so to me, my takeaway from that was explaining the why. Here's why we're having this conversation. I value you. I think you have huge potential. I think you can be successful here. Here's the stuff I see that's going to make it work for you. And because of that, I need to share a few things with you.
Yeah, I love that. And that's dignity, treating somebody like they count. And it's even respect when you say, I have high standards that I think you can meet. That's from the Latin that basically means to give a second look to. Like I'm gonna turn around and look at you again because you've earned that second look. I brought you onto this team for a reason, or I've seen you perform in the past, and so I have high standards here that I am pretty sure you can meet. And it's a huge motivator.
And I've heard managers say it slightly differently. They'll say, "Listen, I'm only telling you this because I believe you can do it."
Right.
I'm only telling you this because I believe that you can do this. And so, it's like setting that expectation that I think you've got potential here. I wouldn't be spending my time with you if I didn't believe
that's right
that you're capable of doing these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Huge.
operating at this high level.
Yeah. Think of how
So-
the safety goes up for that person when you have that discussion. I had somebody approach me recently that said, I'm pretty sure that I'm a manager, and I'm pretty sure my manager is just waiting for me to mess up and push me out.
Mhm.
And having a direct conversation like this would clear the air so quickly, right? Oh, that's what you want. Okay, let's get to work. Let me work on that.
Right.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah. No, that's huge. So the last thing we'll talk about is yelling.
Okay.
And I know some of you, both our listeners are going, finally,
Yeah.
they're going to train us on this. No, there will be no yelling training. And so our thought is we start with Phil Jackson, a fairly successful NBA coach.
Uh-huh.
He said that anger is the enemy of instruction.
Yeah.
So when you're yelling at somebody, when you're yelling at each other, the behavioral change message that you're looking to instill, it's not going in.
Yeah.
The
It
other
just
person,
won't work.
yeah, the other person's in amygdala hijack. It's fight, flight, or freeze. There's no capacity for collaboration, creativity, connection, learning.
Yep.
None of that's present when we're creating like you said, an unsafe environment.
Yeah.
And so when somebody's yelling at me, I really don't know how far it's going to go. And so now I'm thinking about my safety. I'm thinking I either need to fight back, I need to get out of here, or I just freeze up.
Yeah, I'm literally in survival mode, right? So my defenses are up. If my defenses are up, nothing else is up. That's all I'm focused on. So I'm not going to learn whatever it is you're trying to get me to learn. It ain't going to happen.
Right. Your wonderful message not going in.
Right.
It felt good
Right.
for you to get it out of your system, and there is a dopamine rush for some people when they do that.
Yep.
But that is a short-term gain for a long-term loss.
Yeah, and it's cumulative. I've got managers who are just sure over the years. I've had managers and business owners who are sure that their motivational, boot in the rear message at the end of the month is the reason they had a good month. Like if numbers weren't good, and then I gave that message and magically we had a good month. Well, maybe you had a good month because you had a good month, right? Like maybe by the end of the month, some things changed and turned around. But if you've got it in your head that, well, the yelling is what worked, now you yell every month, right? Now there's something that you have to do to get extreme every month, and your managers tune you out. Your employees tune you out. They are not listening to whatever it is you're saying. They already weren't listening because they're defensive in the moment. Now they're not listening because they know that you don't have a bead on what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
It gets worse and worse as time goes on.
Oh yeah. They truly tune it out. It's hysterical. I remember I went into a store. It was a new store. I was in the meeting. The leader of this particular store stood up. He cleared his desk with his arm. He kicked his computer, and he was just, if this continues, none of you'll have jobs. I'll replace all of you. And the managers were just sitting there, just like cucumbers, just cool. And I was freaking out. I was like, oh, we're all gonna die. Walk out of the meeting, and all the managers just walk back, and nobody's talking about it. There's no meeting after the meeting. I was all ready to discuss this.
Where do you want to eat lunch?
They're like, yeah, it's great. Yeah, hey Bob, you still smoking that brisket this weekend? Yeah, that was good stuff. I'm like, what's going on? They go, he does it every Friday.
Huh.
We quit listening months and years ago for the people who've been there a while. So, it literally, in some ways they found it kind of comical and a little bit amusing, just to watch the spectacle. But it wasn't having the effect that, maybe it did that one time, the two times.
Right.
Now it's worn off. So, short-term dopamine hit, long-termly ineffective. So, and when you think about it, right, so one of the things I did was I looked at pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about who are how does pop culture portray the strongest people?
Right.
And if you look at your movie stars, right, the toughest guys in the movies, right? You look at Clint Eastwood.
Right.
You look at Jason Statham. You look at Charles Bronson, right? For you
Right.
old folks out there, and then for some reason in the world we work in a lot, which is automotive retail, they love the movie Tombstone.
Right.
Right. Every character in the movie Tombstone, and the one thing that they all have in common is none of them yell.
They never raise their voice.
No, if they really want to make a point, they lower their voice.
Yeah.
They talk a little bit slower. They
Right.
talk a little bit deeper.
Right.
And all of a sudden, ooh,
Yeah.
this is
This
serious.
is serious.
Yeah, I need to pay extra close attention to what the big guy is saying right now. And so if you want, if you think, okay, I'm not, the only way for me to project power or strength or energy is to yell, it's just the opposite. When you yell, you've lost control. The other person is won. But when you're in complete control to the point where you can slow it down a little bit,
Yeah.
now you got somebody's attention.
Yeah.
So
I don't know why you're calling out my parenting, but it's fine.
That's right. Yeah. This is exactly what I do. Yeah, the kids know if I lower my voice. He's dad's talking like Clint Eastwood. We're all gonna die. We better straighten up. Yeah. So yeah.
Anyway.
So just an update on this. Maybe hopefully it was helpful to see that we're not against telling.
Right.
We just don't want that to be the only tool in your toolbox.
Right. And I guess a little preview, we have an episode coming up where we talk about another one of those tell moments. And it has some asking involved too, but it's become such a topic here lately. And unfortunately, I think both of us have had brushes with it over the years. But the idea of employees' mental health and how, the terrible issue of suicide with coworkers and employees. We're gonna hit that in an upcoming episode to talk about some specific things that you could do for that kind of a tell moment, and it definitely has some tell in it. This is for the more general answer. This episode is the more general answer of people that just don't seem to be getting it for whatever reason, and there does need to be some direction and tell involved. So we'll have a handout that we'll have as a link that you can download, and hopefully this is something that really helps our listeners further their coaching.
Definitely. And speaking of somebody else who always tells,
that is the truth.
Yeah, let's hear from our announcer who he really loves us.
He does.
Yeah,
actually, that's true too.
And that's a wrap. It doesn't take a genius. The blog dedicated to reducing the irreducible. Next time, prime numbers. What makes them so special? Join us then, and thanks for listening.
That's good enough.